It's Friday, Feedback Friday, the feedbackiest day of the week. It's Feedback Friday, and Zelda is here with me. I have the remnants of an avocado here, and so she's like, "Ooh, what is this delightfulness?" Right, Zelda? And sorry about the shirt. Jeez, it's zebraing like crazy on the recording. I don't know if it's gonna do this on YouTube. I don't normally wear this shirt on camera, but I dressed quickly today. And yes, I'm wearing my Slytherin hoodie because J.K. Rowling got Streisand affected. And that makes me happy. Streisand effect is something I'm a big supporter of. I'm just going to zip this up because this shirt is driving me crazy on camera. But Streisand effect is something that always makes me happy because I don't like people using money to suppress speech. Some of you know that it takes a very high bar for people for me to even report someone talking trash about me. I'd rather, God, that's bad. There, okay. I'd rather say it's just not true. And if people believe it, well, they're dead to me then because I know it's true and I know what I didn't do. And I have taken so many damn hits doing the right thing that people don't just do heel turns in real fucking life. They go mask off, but they don't just heel turn. Like that's a stupid Saturday morning cartoon conceit that Joss Whedon stole and recycled it for evil Hawkeye. It doesn't happen in real life. People don't suddenly become terrible people, but everybody's waiting for it. And so yes, so let me do the help support this channel and then I'll get into as of this recording, people have been I really, really appreciate people helping me make up for those bad couple of weeks. People are being extremely generous, and it's humbling. So thank you very much. Help support this channel. Become a monthly patron, patreon.com/Leanna K, or buy a one-time Leah Care session for someone who can use it but can't afford it, coffee.com/Leanna K. I'm terrible at asking for money. It's what happens when you grow up poor. Rich people are like, yeah, pay me. Whereas poor people, you're so sheepish about being poor that you hide that you can't afford things, and you know, it's hard to ask for money. So it's always something I've never been always something I've never been good at. Terrible sentence. I've never been very good at it. So, you know, when people are generous, it's weird. It's like the only real validation I get. And I shouldn't say that. It matters in a tangible way. And this is a good segue into the next thing I want to talk about this Feedback Friday. It's not the title of the video, but it is tied in. A lot of people the last couple weeks, as I've been making a point about Star Wars Outlaws, have been, you're not ugly, you're not ugly. I know that's the point. By human standards, no, I am not ugly. But when I worked in television, I was never considered attractive enough to be a leading female role, to be the love interest, to be the strong female character. And part of that were my boobs and butt were too big. And so you were either considered trashy or fat. This is the way Hollywood rolls. And that has existed. You know, I started working in the 90s. I was on TV in the early 2000s. This precedes the woke era. Hollywood likes the expensively, I have paid for liposuction and facelifts, skinny chick. It's just the way things are. It doesn't make sense. It's not connected to any science we have about what men really like. But it's always been a thing, and it's infected gaming. And these are the things I want people to know so you can get a better sense of what actually is happening in the industry. Because you go and you look at porn sites. Or the big metric I look at is Second Life, because people can be anything they want to be in Second Life. And there's so many curvy girls in Second Life. That's just a snapshot of what people actually find attractive compared to what is shoveled at us by the media about what's attractive. And so it's something that we had an opportunity in, 2012 to 2015. And instead of doing the things we know science says work, gaming went full Sarkeesian. And I was, you guys know, I was tearing my hair out at the time going, this is why this is wrong. This is, none of this is backed up by anything. This is men fearing women's opinions. Women aren't making these decisions. They found one woman who confirms every fear they have about women taking away the fun. And they're like, you see, and it's a minority opinion. It's a minority opinion. I mean, if you look at the stuff that women are actually into, it's full of sex. It's full of sex. But gaming decided they were going to go with the women who confirm their fears and not listen to women like me because apparently I'm a pick-me girl and operating in bad faith. And you know what? I tried, but I'm making my own game very slowly. Oh, fuck. But, I'm just doing my thing. I'm doing my thing with you guys. I did my time. And I mean, I'll keep voicing my opinions, but I have just accepted that the industry is not interested in the opinions of people like me who bothered to learn the science and delve deeply into it. They want their biases confirmed. So, I've seen... it's that Battlestar Galactica, this has all happened before, this will happen again thing. That's where I'm at right now with all this stuff. And fighting, screaming, freaking out doesn't actually move the needle. This is weird. If there's a way to fail, all this stuff, and human brains in general work on avoiding the bad, not moving towards the good. All media is risk averse, especially right now. And that's just the way it goes. Now, the thing I said about finding a woman in Anita Sarkeesian that's just confirmed all the fears men had about women's opinions, that if you listened to the It's Not Therapy podcast last night, if you haven't, I'm not going to get too far into it, but I did the guest I interviewed was a psychologist, I believe, who wrote a book on, it's called Hidden in Plain Sight, How Men's Fears of Women Shape Their Intimate Relationships. And that's what I was doing the research on chronic fears of emasculation on. It was based on his work. And he actually said in the interview, you did the reading, unlike so many other interviewers. Like, yeah. But yeah, that fear is, it does underpin everything. And I found it really interesting that the conversations I've had over the last week, there's been a lot of people pushing back on individual details about this and that. But disagreeing with me some things. And I love it when people feel comfortable enough to tell me they disagree. It's awesome. And it actually, most of the conversations where people talk to me like respectfully, actually end up, I say to them halfway through their preamble that I suspect we don't disagree, or we agree more, avoiding the double negative. I suspect we agree more than you think right now. And usually it turns out, yes, that's absolutely it. It was another facet that, obviously in a video I can't get to, but there's usually a lot more agreement than people think. And that is what I found with most of those things. And if you just have a conversation instead of panicking and making a bunch of accusations, you can get, a lot of common ground and a better understanding. And not only do things move forward macro, you learn more about the other person micro. And, whether somebody disagreed with me or not, I mean, I do agree with the people who use the term uncanny valley for Star Wars stuff. The people in the comments that basically said it's the difference between performance capture versus full render. Yeah, that's exactly what I saw. And what I hope to do, at least in my little corner of the internet, is get better discussions like that. That it's not, oh, she's ugly. It's, let's actually use our words. Let's actually be precise. Because I know, being a content creator, having worked on games, when I did the modeling for Battle Station Specific, and even then, like, I sent them photo references, and they made my body parts smaller. Like they shrunk my ass a fair bit. Even, well, no, the chest was okay, but they definitely kind of shrunk me down. So I see how things get changed from the reference. And, that's why it's like, nope, too ugly for games. Everybody whose likeness is used in a game, they change it from the reference material. Every single one. I don't care. And this idea that, oh, if you make it better, that's okay. But if you make it worse, that's not. And there's a lot of assumptions that go into better and worse, right? Because better and worse based on what? This character, it's called Star Wars Outlaws. We assume she's a smuggler or something. We saw Han Solo and Carbonite and Jabba the Hutt and all that stuff. It was just like that kind of tier. People like that aren't going to be, full face, complete with lashes. For people who know what full face means, like totally made up. And I do think that Carrie Fisher kind of set a tone of, she looked way older than 19, even in that first movie. There was some hard living in everything about her. And it's unfortunate that one woman set the entire aesthetic of Star Wars because she was the only human woman, right? And I think Disney has made a mistake doing either Leia clones or totally CGIing Katie Sackhoff's face to the point that it was also Uncanny Valley. I do like the more, she looks like what people would be able to manage in those conditions. It's why I liked the lady in Andor that are in the one with the perfect bun. And it's like, yeah, she's Imperial, right? She's part of the clean and evil part of Star Wars. That made sense to me. So those are the characters that I'd be okay with, like liquid eyeliner and all that stuff. The rebel forces, no, they're catch as catch can. So making somebody overly glamorous there, to me, is not an improvement. But this is where we get into that chronic terror of emasculation. And I have one guy in the comments was like, "You're close, but still wrong." And I'm like, what's that? You're close, but not quite. What the hell is with that? I didn't make the term, pal. I'm quoting a term from psychological literature. Go fucking argue with them. I don't make the rules. That is so frustrating. But it's not chronic terror of emasculation. It's terror of chronic emasculation. And here's the thing, okay? If you're chronically being emasculated, you're not afraid you're going to be emasculated. You are being emasculated. That would just be chronic emasculation. Chronic terror of emasculation is more accurate because it doesn't happen. With some guys, it does happen constantly. I work with guys where they grew up being constantly emasculated. And at that point, it wasn't fear, it was submission. You know, you can't be afraid of something, afraid something's going to happen that is happening. And I had this great conversation with one guy who said, I don't want to see guys like me in media because when I see somebody like me, I'm afraid of how they're going to be treated. And I related to that a lot because I went, fuck it, I'm out with the Aloy is ugly thing. Because there is an obvious similarity between me and how Aloy looks. And like I said, I've tested out all the mocap and performance capture tech. And those raw files are a fucking horror show. In certain companies, I got to see how Ubisoft's tech works. When they did Far Cry Primal, we got to see how it all worked. And they've got tools that automatically refine the image, but they're not perfect. Because otherwise it's a freaking like, oh my God. Try it for yourself. Take your cell phone camera, photograph yourself from up here, photograph yourself it's between the nose and mouth. And it's only this far up. Photograph yourself from that angle, tilted up the way the camera is. It does extend the jaw. And if you'll notice in things like Metal Gear 5 with Quiet, she does have kind of puffy cheeks. That's from the capture. In order to avoid that, you have to basically rebuild the model. Or like they did in Alan Wake, or I don't know if it was Death Stranding, if they did full video in certain scenes, but they actually do video. And so they can control the camera angles a lot better. But obviously that's more expensive. And we see with the Game Awards that what gets awarded are big and broken games like Baldur's Gate 3 and not contained games that were actually finished at fucking launch like Alan Wake 2. They had a few patches around the edges, but that game was polished at launch. Not fucking broken. Baldur's Gate 3 is still broken for some people, but game of the year, you know? So if sales are rewarding big and broken and awards are rewarding big and broken, what are we going to get? Big and broken games, right? That's just the way it works. What's incentivized, we get more of. And that's why I push games like Alan Wake 2 so hard. First of all, I legitimately enjoyed it. It was a frustrating first playthrough, but so is any FromSoft game. But the frustration was deliberate. It really communicated intention very, very well. It was risky. It was a great story. And technically, the graphics were good. The sound was good. The performance was good. All good. But it was smaller, right? And what I hear is when something happens, like the Warhammer thing or the Star Wars Outlaws thing, guys see that as a red flag that the game is going to emasculate them. And there's that chronic terror of emasculation. And this is one of these things where, do we really want to discuss whether or not this fear is valid and potentially gaslight somebody? Or do we deal with the fear? And do we deal with the more environmental kind of bigger picture reasons that men walk around this way. And to me, because the game's not out, because we don't know, because reassurances don't really work, and obviously like, oh, grow up, all that stuff, that's never worked. And if somebody is arrogant about it, you know, nice try, close, but not quite. No, I'm gonna fucking that one. When somebody actually said, no, I am chronically terrified of this. The interesting thing is ugly is emasculation for women. That is the thing women walk around. Either we walk around terrified that we're going to be branded ugly, or we accept that we are ugly and just go, okay, that's it. I'm going to get on with my life. And that's what I sort of performatively did with this whole thing of, oh, if she's ugly, I'm ugly. You know, everybody, imagine looking very similar to a character. Like, it was really uncanny when that first game came out. And obviously, I had aged as much as the actress in the first game. And Horizon Forbidden West comes out, and everyone is going on how ugly this character is who looks exactly like you. And I look like that real life. The actress didn't look like the character in the first game as much as I did. My ass is way bigger, but like, that's the thing. A representation of a woman and a woman when it comes to how attractive somebody perceives it, unless it's obviously stylized, like cartoon, like nobody expects a woman to look like Jessica Rabbit. That was, you know, exaggerated proportions for effect. And I do think, I mean, nobody had an issue with Jessica Rabbit when that first came out. Women really liked that character. That's the thing. But in the 80s, when that movie came out, unisex haircuts and shoulder pads and all that stuff were in. We knew she was a throwback. The same way everybody thought Lady Dimitrescu was cool. If you look at that character, she is older. The face is quite sharp, and the teeth are kind of yellowed. But everybody loved her panache. Everybody loved the idea of the character, and so they didn't see the little things the game actually did. The lines around the eyes, the sharpness of the face, the yellowed teeth. Because they were drawn in by the riz, right? The charisma. And that was very telling to me, because I was like, oh, okay, thank God a slightly older woman could exist in games and be okay. But, oh God, no, you talk to devs. You're over 40, you're old. Old. And let's face it, old with women means ugly. It just does. You're infertile. No one wants you. They're going to dump you for a younger model. That's what women are trained to expect from birth. And that's what is so interesting to me about this whole dichotomy, and why gaming has handled it, in my belief, totally wrong. Because, first of all, men find different things attractive. There is no agreement on what is attractive. Different people like different things. The most attractive thing to me in a game is if a character looks like the role they are fulfilling. So, you know, if somebody's a smuggler living rough, no, I don't want them in full makeup. No. If somebody's a princess, yes, go full glam on that one. And I do think that if we talked and we understood, you know, if we were more compassionate about the fact that chronic terror of emasculation is a real thing, and then conversely, people were more compassionate about the fact that ugly for women is the same thing as emasculation for men, and when women are walking around seeing other women get called ugly, 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 that's increasing that fear, right? We have a point of commonality here, that because of the way the messaging works, because of the way the game companies just don't talk, and I understand why. And the fact that the press is so falling down on the job. This was an easy point of commonality to find. And it's just not being done because everything's at such massive scale and everybody's going for such massive clicks. And I really do think that if we could do like smaller groups, like little roundtables, you know, where it's a smaller audience. And yes, there are comments and yes, there's a Q&A, but it's not so big that you get a bunch of trolls that are just going ugly, 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 fuck you men, and ruining the whole thing. I really do think that we could bring down the fear sliders on both ends. And then we can bring back the glamorous women that both men and women want. And we can have a greater diversity of characters who are treated well by the game. Because I totally get that whole thing of I don't want a guy in the game because I'm afraid of how he's going to be treated. Because I was, you know, with Baldur's Gate 3 and Jaheira, it's like, yeah, older woman. Yeah, Jaheira. She's me in this game. Closest thing. Oh my fucking God. She's old and she's a terrible mother. And there's no third act of that. Well, fuck. So I get it. And I, like, don't get me wrong. I think that Astarion being a little dick to her was completely in character. That's fine. It's have the negative things, have the positive counterpoint. Do that shadow work in the writing. That's ideal. Not stripping it all out. Put things in. Take risks. Be complex. Don't just remove things because you're afraid somebody's going to yell at you. I mean, chronic terror of backlash is what devs are going through. And so everybody's scared and everybody's taking it out on each other when it's no one's fault. If you like this kind of content, help support this channel, become a monthly patron, patreon.com/LeannaK, or buy a one-time Leanna Care session for someone who can use it but can't afford it. Still trying to make that goal for the week, coffee.com/LeannaK. Thanks for watching and have a great weekend.